And so we had an opportunity to pay more because we were also doing those things in-house. It helped us and win more opportunities. And everybody's like, well, you're paying more for it. Yeah, but I'm also paying $30,000 less in fees, to my GCs and my realtors. So there's a little bit of a trade-off. Like if I can get $15,000 more, I'm still $15,000 less, and it's, but I'm beating them out, so there is kind of
Exactly.
a little bit of a formula to it, but certainly.
Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Hey, everyone. I'm Micah Johnson with the Real Estate Pros podcast. And today I'm joined by someone I've been looking forward to speaking with. His name is Ernest Smith, who has been making some moves in real estate for quite some time now. He's been in the fix and flip space, in opening brokerages and general contracting. And Ernest, I'm glad to have you here, man.
Mike, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Excited to have you. So I think our listeners are really going to take away something from how you're approaching really real estate as a whole. Like we were talking about a second ago, you're more of a jack of all trades guy in your journey through here. So let's dive in. So first off, for people who may not be familiar with your world, give us a short version. What's your main focus these days and what markets are you operating in?
Main focus, we do a lot of fix and flips. That's kind of been our, bread and butter for the most part. It's where I've always kind of been in that side. I started out in college in drafting design engineering, got into later down the road after house hacking, and doing a kind of a side thing, found that there was the needs of the general contractors and needs of realtors. And, then you're trying to build the team. And then when you weren't able to find great comparable people, you just stepped in and kind of took it over. So I ended up becoming a general contractor in 2014, a licensed realtor in 2018. And, so that's kind of where those years have kind of progressed to. And, so yeah.
It's awesome. Now, from college, so you said you got started house hacking. Now, what was that connection? Like, what were you doing in college and what led that to, I'm going to start house hacking? And if you want to
Sure.
explain a little bit about what that is for someone that's listening and wouldn't know.
Yeah. So in drafting design engineering, you really kind of got into, what side of the engineering you wanted to get into. And so for me, architecture was always kind of like that main focus for me. There's always that necessity of people needing houses. I always liked the idea of taking essentially art that I was really good at the time. Now I don't know if I can even draw stick figures. Then I was good at art, and then you have the house side. So when drafting came into it, it was really the art form because you're doing it on the draft table with pencils and paper and rulers and all that stuff. So there was an art form that was to that, which really drew me to it. But then technology came in. So then we started getting the things like AutoCAD and Rivet and all these 3-dimensional programs. and that was great because it made the speed of execution faster. You were able to get these projects done. If you screwed up, you weren't wasting hours of time racing and lines and all that. So that was kind of my introduction into is doing it all from on the paper standpoint. Fast forward, I got into doing the house hacking. So I understood the technology, or I understood the knowledge base side of what went into a house. Then when I started doing house hacking, now I'm dealing with the real life situation. But I knew what it was. Like, I knew floor joists were 2x8s or 2x10s or 2x12s. And I knew walls are 2x4s or 6s. Like, I knew the components that went into what it took to build a house. And so then I was always pretty good with being handy. My father was kind of a mechanic, so I was always kind of in the garages with him, working on cars and boats and you name it. And so, imploding something, dissecting it, and then knowing how to go in and rebuild it was kind of a natural working for me. So it's just kind of one of those things that, I just progressed into it. You kind of learned as you went. And what was this, early 2000s, so we didn't have the YouTube universities, and we didn't have these platforms like we do today, the social medias, to really learn from, if you will, or, just find mentors that are in those fields, as easily that you can find. So it's, so yeah, a lot of hard knocks, school of hard knocks there.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
Yeah, when I was reading your profile, what did it say? You moved 12 times in 6 years, something like that? And all those were house hacks?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
man,
I mean,
that's
because,
cool.
some of these houses that, I ended up buying were really lipstick ones, and there's always like, I need a place to live anyway. And so I would end up I was being a gypsy for the first, quite a few years. I was single, didn't have any kids, didn't have all that. So it was very easy for me. And really is just, you have the hassle of just moving, but for the most part, it was pretty good. Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. I have a couple friends that they got started house hacking as well. I find it's so interesting to me, that whole process. And then take us through what made the jump, where it went from, I'm going to do this way, to how do I have a business doing this? What was going through your mind there in that transition?
During those years, like, I was working, in the early part, I was a restaurateur. So I was partnered with another friend of mine, and we had, we did smoothies and juices and breakfast wraps and that kind of stuff. And that was, like 98 to 2003. So that was kind of in the very beginning side of it. Well, after that, I got into doing, food sales. So I got out of the restaurant business. My partner and his wife wanted to move back out west. And it was just an opportunity because this is around 9/11. So a lot of dynamics changed that we just didn't have any control over. So, we kind of grew that business. The goal of that one was to grow it to 5 and to be able to look at either selling it off or scaling it. And then we ended up just opting to scale because of the way that the economy went at that time. Got into doing food sales. So while I was doing the sales, the real estate was just kind of an extra. Like, I'm just going to go in and do it as a hobby and live in a house, live in it for a year or 2 years, do the short-term gains or capital gains free. Because you can do, for single, you can do up to $250,000 in profit. If you're married, it's up to $500,000 in profit if you're doing capital gains. And so the theory that I had learned at that time is, if you go and do it 4 or 5 houses, by the time you got to your 5th or 6th house, and you just keep rolling over like the snowball, you're going to have this house paid off, no fees, no cost.
Mhm.
And so that was the goal, is be able just to live in a house that was completely paid for. And it was fine because I was working a W-2 job and everything else. But you find, just like anything else, that changes. So
I heard that, man. It does. Things shift as we go along. So you're in the W-2 world, you're growing restaurants. We were talking again before we recorded, more of a jack of all trades guy, which makes a lot of sense with how your trajectory's gone. So when did it shift to I want to fix and flip more full time? I want to use real estate as this lever to really change my life.
sure. Well, again, it was kind of the process of the needs and wants. In a lot of these flips, I would still need to get general contractors involved, because of some of them were taking them down to studs. Others were, um, just in various forms. So we needed HVAC or plumbing or mechanical, or, so we were always leaning to get permits and stuff done. And I found, even over those times, even when I was in sales, because I was in food sales, my clients, the restaurants, for the most part, didn't want to see a breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So I had those opportunities to go check on my houses. So I was on my job sites way more than my general contractors were. And, it started kind of just irking me, because I was just like, look, I'm paying you a lot of money to be here managing these projects, and you're not. So it's like, and then, so when I realized, like, I knew, not to say like I knew more than them, I didn't necessarily, but I felt like the processes I understood better, because I was there doing more. But I also wasn't thinking of it as a general contractor. I was looking at it as, the investor. Like, I need to get this done. You get this done for me.
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency. It's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
So in 2014, like, mind you, 14 years later than what we're beginning at here, I went and got my general contractor's license. And then in kind of subsequent story would be with the realtor side, is that even though I worked with other realtors up to that point, it was finding the consistent one. It was one that understood, hey, I'm doing this as an investor. There's going to be opportunities that I'm going to be buying more houses, I'm going to be selling more houses, but I can have you on the front side and the back side. Like, you can get double paid off of projects. And some of them jumped on board with that, but then others were just kind of like, yeah, maybe it wasn't happening fast enough, or they didn't like the feeling that they were getting a low dollar amount out of it, because I was lowballing. And a lot of them have issues with lowballing because they just don't
Mhm.
understand why, or really how they need to, communicate that to the other side. Because nowadays, as a realtor, I'm putting 4 offers in on one property at one time, and where people are still that one transaction. So I do things even a little differently on that side, because my take on it is that I have one opportunity to get in front of that seller to be able to get their house. And if I can give them, hey, we can look at this as from the investor standpoint, where we could do cash, which, we could be cash is king. We could potentially be, 40, 50, 60 cents on a dollar, for say. We can look at it strategically with creative financing. So we can look at owner financing if they own the property. We could do subject to. We can do lease with the options. So we had a lot of different ways to kind of look at it, other than just being that transaction. Hey, I'm going to pay you full price for what you have on the market, and pay retail. A lot of ways to do property. So with all of those components, now is a little bit more in control. And I could be a little bit more selective, because now, where some investors' thresholds, because they knew they had to go pay a general contractor, they knew they had to go pay a realtor, they were having to pay even less or offer less to these sellers. And so we had an opportunity to pay more, because we were also doing those things in-house. It helped us and win more opportunities. And everybody's like, well, you're paying more for it. Yeah, but I'm also paying $30,000 less in fees, to my
Yeah.
GCs and my realtors. So there's a little bit of a trade-off. Like if I can get $15,000 more, I'm still $15,000 less, and it's, but I'm beating them out, so there is kind of
Exactly.
a little bit of a formula to it, but certainly.
But what you talked about there with the realtors working with investors was I was a realtor. I got started in 2014 and I met my first investor in 2017. And like you said, not all realtors like to work with investors, but if you have the mindset for it, it's completely life changing. I
Oh,
went from selling 50 houses a year to 50 different people to 50 to one guy. And it was like, holy cow, this is cool. I like the way this runs because it's just a completely different world that you get to participate in. I love what you were talking about there. Simply just moving a line item, you can get a seller more money if you control more on your back end. So that's really smart to do. You're not the first person I've heard talk about the struggles with the general contractors. That's a big one in the fix and flip world is GCs, subs, how to actually get projects done because that is difficult. What's that like for you? Is that once you got that GC license, did that get more simple? Do you still find struggles there?
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
no, there's still struggles. No, there's still struggles. I mean, because now it's like yes, I'm involved in those, and sometimes way more than I want to be. At one point, so I kind of did two different scenarios. So one scenario back in 2017, 18, I had just about 20 guys, like 18 or 19 guys or whatever that worked for me. So W-2s. And that was great because I can sit there and say, hey, you two over here and you six over there. And like I can disperse them how I needed to. And they were all pretty, some had less skills across the board. Like they weren't all handyman kind of deal. And then some were very specific to what they were. So like I had to pair them up with someone else. So those were good, but on the same side, then what you found is that you had to now go out and even do more sales, more contacts, more marketing, more. And because you had, your monthly spend on those guys on a salary side was constant. You're like $65,000, $70,000 a month that you're spending out in salaries. So there was it took one guy that I brought in to kind of implode the whole entire thing, unfortunately, where I felt like he was a very good fit. He was going to be kind of my liaison with doing the logistics of things and buying stuff and setting, our vendors that we had set up, getting things to flow better in that side. And I went on vacation, come back and just, I'm talking like, take it and throw it against the wall. Cause like it was bad. Guys were leaving. There were almost fist fights happening. Found out this guy was trying to overtake the company, so I was like, is this really the best model for me? So then I started kind of segregating. Well, then of course we had COVID happen in 2020 and, that kind of changed the dynamic also. So at that particular point, I was kind of switching over to using just subcontractors. Now that's good because I can hire them right, but I can also fire them faster. They're not on my payroll, so they're tied to the project. So it's either, hey, you got to perform to get paid, or you don't perform, you don't get paid, you get fired, I can replace you. And then but now it's a matter of like, how do I hold the carrot in front of them to keep them, coming into your projects? And so, and doing it in the timely fashion, because a lot of them would be like, oh yeah, we're going to do this in 5 days. And here we are, 10 days later, and, they're getting things done. So for them, it's a matter of like, I have to hold their feet to the fire. And now I have consequences. Hey, I'll give you 5 days. This is what you're telling me. I'll give you 2 days of grace period. And then if you go over that grace period, then I'm going to start deducting you per day, X amount of dollars per day, and until you get it finished. And then if you don't get it finished, then I'm going to fire you and I'm going to find someone else. So it's like, because this is a process that needs to get done. And
Interesting.
so those little tweaks to businesses of things helped a lot. But it really kind of cut the BS when I was very straightforward to the guys and say, this is what's going to happen. And it's totally up to you. I'm giving you a long enough a rope to, uh, take care of yourself with. But it was just kind of an opportunity, really. And if I look at my phone now and if you said, hey, Ernie, what do you have in your phone for electricians? I mean, I'd be just
The
going through
Rolodex.
going through the Rolodex of contacts. Same thing with all of them, because again, some of them are just from the networks I meet people and, being at these local meetups and different things, like you get some trades that come out. Hey, let me get your contact. Da, 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 da. And then others were referred from other investors. And, so you kind of you start building your team with, who you work with. Well, they understand, what the goal is, so there's a lot that comes along with that, but, um, there's also a lot of headaches and that comes along with it also, because now it's like, hey, I fired you. Now I have to go find someone else that can do it for the cost that is left. Plus, now you're working with someone totally new. So there's a learning curve to that. And so I haven't really found the best blend in a lot of that, but in a time like contractors are, a dime a dozen, it's but then also then you're dealing with like today's, politics, right? It's like the immigration, the migrants that come in, it's like they're coming here to work for their families, but then you get the wrong people that screw the system and then and kind of mess it up for the other ones. And and there's a lot of things that go out of that. So like so being in the Charlotte market, we had the ice come in for about a week and a half or 2 weeks. There wasn't anybody working. Like it was
Wow.
like shut down. And if you wanted things to happen, like you needed to find someone that was a legit subs. And that was a challenge, because a lot of people just, they want to sit in front of the computers these days,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I've seen the sub world take some hits, and it's interesting because I was a carpenter's apprentice in my early 20s, learning from a master craftsman on flipping houses, and it seems as though some of the dignity went away from it, that to build the pride and the quality of product seems to have gone down, and that's I'm interested in how we fix that over time because, like you, I love real estate. Taking a house that can't be lived in and making it where it's livable again, where a family can come in, I love that. That is it to me, is one of the best feelings in the world to, like, revive something to where people can now participate in it again and give it a whole new story.
I'll
So it
have to
is
tell you
int
a story. I have to tell you a story on that one. So, I feel the same way as like, I like to take something that was loved on, just repair and then put love back into it and sell it to someone that's going to have another family to come in and have memories. Well, we did, we did one project and I chuckled because I can laugh about it now. At the time, I was like, I felt like it was a big kick in the gut. So this house we ended up buying, I think it was like 196,000. We put like maybe 50 something thousand into the renovation of it. And so anyway, we ended up selling the product. It was like $320,000. We ended up selling this house for, and we're like, yeah, this is great. We made 50, 60 grand on this thing. And like 2 months after we had sold it, we were in the same neighborhood looking at some other houses. I was like, hey, let's drive by where, the house is at and see what they did. Well, we literally drove by the house because they had torn the house down to build a $1.8 million house. And I was just like, what? And so, I was, it was like, man, I felt like a bad breakup. Like I didn't, it's like, you didn't know what to do. You had
that
5, 6 months
I
of your
haven't heard
time
that.
and effort and energy and, go into it. And even though you hit your numbers and you made your percentages but yeah, it was like that
You were
did
playing
not
a
go
whole
to the
different
family.
game. Yeah, they were playing a whole different game there. You didn't even know what was going on. That's wild.
Yeah.
So let's get up to where are you now? What's your main focus these days?
So, and in the last, so kind of, man, we're still doing a lot of fix and flips. I say a lot. I mean, we're not like, hundreds a year kind of thing. Here, so in the last probably 2 years for me, so the networking side of things has been really big for me. One, because when we find in the real estate fix and flip side, there's never enough deals and there's never enough money. So I needed to solve, that equation. So some of these groups that I've gotten into have a lot more people that have a lot deeper pockets than me, but understand, the fix and flip game is a short run. You're talking between 6 and 8 months typically. And so for them to be able to do potentially 2 deals a year, utilizing that money and get, somewhere between 15-20% returns on their money, they're all about it, and even some will do it like out of their IRAs and things as well. And they're used to getting like a 6% return or 8% returns. And so we can start out at 8% or 10%. And for them, they're like, this is fantastic. They get a like faster turnaround. So now, because of the years of doing the fix and flip, I built my portfolio up of performing. So not only that, but I'm a licensed general contractor. I'm a licensed realtor. So I've been, I'd been background checked by the state. And not to say that there aren't other people that have, and then they don't do a good job. But there's the integrity that goes along with it, and then the ethics of things. So for me, like I it may take a little longer, but I'm going to get the project done, and it's going to get done right. So that way we don't have any problems with it on the back end. So there's a lot. So I say all this because we're finding the resources, more people and more money. And then there's kind of a need. And out of being a realtor, I come to find out the realtors that I network with, they're very singular transaction based. I need to go find a house that I can get the seller to agree to, or a buyer to agree to, in negotiation with that. And it's a very sales transaction. So, here's this house. Now I need to go find another house to do. Now I need to find another house to do. And those that have the marketing dollars behind them, or go out and constantly or beating the streets, knocking the doors, those are the ones that are getting referrals. Now, what you find is it's great because you have a homeowner. So you're helping the homeowner sell their house. Now you're going to hopefully take that homeowner and get them to go buy a house. Well, that's 2 transactions you could potentially get. But what you find is that I'm dealing with a retail buyer that particularly buys, maybe once every 3 to 5 years, or 5 to 10 years, maybe. And so once I help them buy or sell or whichever, I've potentially lost that person. And so there was kind of, I think you had mentioned it at the beginning, is like you had one guy that was able to go do 50 deals, or you had, 50 individual deals to go do. So it's easier to kind of touch with those investors that are out there buying, because they have the connections and they have the money. And so the brokerage that I just brought into North Carolina gave me the freedom to be able to offer to my agents the opportunity to be an investor. And so a lot of the other ones are, hey, no, like you got to go out and do your sales. Well, you're going to get sales by working with the investor, but I also want you to build your portfolio for your own self, because in the times of like this year, when things have been not moving as much, houses have been sitting longer on the market. They're doing a reduced cost on them to try to sell for those that need to sell. And there's a lot that kind of goes with that. With that, I mean, people's profits have gone down, so they haven't made as much money this year as they had, or 2008 or 9, right? Like they didn't make that type of money. And then there's some in those scenarios, 2008, 9, where the real estate played a different role, like because they were over leveraged and they weren't able to take care of their notes, because their rents weren't as high as they were supposed to. And, so there's a lot of people that lost a lot of money in those timeframes because they just didn't do the process right.
Right. Kind of ate them up.
Yeah.
Now, we were talking beforehand, you're doing some speaking now too, right? Around this, traveling around?
Yes. Yep. I did. So a lot of them I would just do like local meetups, and I belong or co-host or hosted, several meetups around the Charlotte area talking about real estate, as you can imagine. I don't feel like my wife is like, is that all you talk about is just real estate? And she's like, what about Britney Spears? I'm like, I don't care about Britney Spears. Like she doesn't do anything to our wallets. She's fun to watch, but doesn't do anything for me, like, so anyway, when we, um, uh, so I guess the big part is like, and when you're really looking about real estate itself, so speaking on it, because I think, because I feel like I have kind of a trifecta, if you will, like being the investor, being a general contractor, and being a realtor, all three of those come into play in real estate and typically throughout the transactions even. And so when I have the opportunity to talk with the sellers, I say, hey, look, here's the situation. Here's the 4 offers. Here's kind of what we can do. So now kind of looking at it as, there's a lot of people that need to hear how to do these fix and flips. Because they watch TV shows like the DIY Network or HGTV, and they see Chip and Joanna out there swinging the hammers and doing all those things. And like, oh, this is great. Look at all this stuff. And we can make all this kind of money. Sure, you can, but you can also lose your ass. Right. So, I mean, but even like with Chip and Joanne, for instance, I mean, they do a lot of high end stuff to their items, right? They're, the materials that they're putting into it, the house that they're doing. So yeah, anyway, you get into these fix and flips. And I think where the newbie investors get into it they're like, well, I'm going to hire the professional general contractor. I'm going to hire these professional MMPs, the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and they're going to know how to take care of it. And they're going to go ahead and give us kind of a price for the scope of work. Well, you don't know the scope of work. So how are you going to tell them what the scope of work is? Like, you don't understand what's going to happen or what needs to happen or what you want to put into it or what toilet you want to select. A toilet you can spend $100 on, or you can spend $500 or $600 on. You can spend a couple $1,000s on if you want the fancy ones with the bidets and the warm seats and all that stuff. So is that going to go into a $300,000 flip? No. The $100 toilet's going to go in the $300,000 flip. So it's again, it's kind of understanding what goes into it. And so one of the things I usually end up saying is like, fix what is needed. Do not add your wants, make your margins. And really, that's pretty as simple as I can put it. When you understand what the house needs, and then also where the ARV is at on the backside, like it starts dictating to you what your budget is. And then you have to look at it as, hey, we want to open up this wall. Do you have to open up the wall? Because that's going to cost you $8,000 to open up the wall. Do you have that in the budget? Well, no, we just think it's better. Well, yeah, but you didn't think about that, when you were negotiating the deal. And so, so a lot of the people I feel that I run across in these subgroup meetings, and these masterminds and stuff like I belong into is this, they don't have the knowledge behind them, even though they have the YouTubes and things to watch. It's not the real world stuff. Once you get into it, it's like, man, I'm in this transitioning area, but I wouldn't live in this house the way it is, but this is what I'd want to do. I want the soaker tub in it and I want this in it. And they're putting all these things in there that doesn't really have a place. And then they sit there and complain at the back end and be like, oh, woe is me. We got screwed over by the contractor. Oh, we got screwed over by this person. Oh, we went way over budget. And it's like, yeah, because you weren't able to communicate to the contractor what needs to get done and keep them accountable to the scope of work in order for you to maintain the budget throughout. So speaking's been kind of big for me here, more so. And in 2026, it's ramping up because I feel like there's a lot of people that it could help if that's the case.
Agreed, man. Cause it's that knowledge. There's one thing seeing it on TV where Chip and Joanna actually already have a buyer that's buying that home retail that you're watching them take all apart. And I see a lot of folks that end up overbuilding for an area because of their want list and don't account for it. So getting out there and getting that education, it's so important. And the folks that I really appreciate the guys like yourself that go out there and do that because it's life-changing. There are people that will lose everything because of that. Like we talk about real estate. You said it earlier. Yes, you can be very successful, but you can also lose everything in this game if you're not careful about it. because there's so many little things that happen when you're in it. I always talk to people, someone tells me I'm in real estate. Well, I ask them, well, what kind? And if they can't answer that question, then I know they're not really serious about it, because real estate is the most broad term that exists
Oh yeah.
in our
It's
industry. And there's so many little nuances that you get into as you dig into like each little thing, which is cool about your career arc. What I like to see is you've lived it out. You've seen firsthand what it's like. You've experienced the problem and then found the solution. Okay, if GC's this, I'll just be this. If I don't have the realtors here, I'll become this. So I can keep capturing more and more on the bottom line. And that's one of the most effective ways to do it, is how can I be more of the line items on the HUD? How can I be more of the people getting money
yeah.
instead of giving that stuff out? It's powerful.
As much as it is, it's also kind of it's also not, because when you look at it, that's even more hats I got to wear. And that's more things that you're trying to control. Again, if you want to be able to do this and scale, what I find out is that you have to rely on your team. you know, like when going back to 2018, I had, 18, 19 guys that worked for me. So I was building my team, and then that dynamic changed. And, maybe it was failure on my side to where I didn't know how to navigate or manage around that. But then again, is also the opportunity is like, is that really the best way to handle it? Because now I have to go out there and interview, and I have to do the quality on that, figure out what they know and what they don't know, and then have to educate them and train them. So there's a lot of other um, nuances that come into having an employee versus, hey, I need this trade, and I'm going to go out and look for the trades, and now it's up to them. Here's the scope of work. Can you handle it? Yes. And then I set a different set of parameters. So the realtor side or the GC side, although they're great to have, and really it was kind of more of, these are just tools in my tool belt. And it was supposed to be like selfishly for me to be able to kind of grow the business organically, because again, I was working a W-2 job. And so it was kind of like, if I do this and I can do 3 houses or 4 houses a year and make, an extra, 100,000, 200,000, $300,000 off of those deals while I was working the W-2, then fantastic. That was great. Like, those are just good vacations I can have, or buy a new car, or do whatever. Then in 20, what was it, like 2016 or so, 2017, is kind of when I made the jump out of corporate America. The sales that I had, we were starting to have tons of competition coming in that were really undercutting us as a food company. And so then it became harder to even just scrape up some minimum orders to get compensation out of. And then the company I'd worked with, I had my territory cut 3 different times because I was great at going out and opening up new accounts. And they said that as an opportunity to say, hey, we're going to pull some of these low producing ones off of you, give you more time to go out and find some new deals. And we're going to go ahead and give them to X, Y, and Z. But meanwhile, they were pulling some of that gross profit dollars. So, you can only do that so many times, and you're just like, enough's enough. And so I made the transition into the real estate side. And then, but now it's again become, I started leaning more into the GCing, because it's like, well, I can get more cash flow out of that. I can, have multiple projects. I can have crews going on. So when I'm doing my fix and flips, I would just, keep the ball rolling. And so I kind of like set the realtor thing aside. But then what you started figuring out is you're creating yourself a job. Well, I don't want a job. I want to be able to have residual income and start doing buy and hold. So I started taking some of those proceeds I would make off of some of the houses, and then I would end up, buying a rental property with them to start having that residual income coming in. And again, it was a matter of, there are probably a lot of houses that I should have kept that I didn't keep because of lack of knowledge. And so that's when I started getting into a lot more of these local groups, the larger groups, the masterminds, and because you don't know what you don't know, and it's constant. Like, you can see all the books behind me. Like, I don't do a ton of reading. Like, I'll grab a book and go through a couple chapters here and there. Especially if there's like something that's really playing on me at that moment, I just need to find. And then there's of course, obviously, like YouTube or whatever you can go into is like, hey, how do you want to change the oil filter in the car? Like, there's typically out there. So I think all in all, with the speaking side, is really just kind of taking all of it that we're talking about right now, condense it down, be very specific. Um, when you're getting into doing these the estimating on projects, it's tedious. No one wants to do it. But once you do it a bunch of times, like now, when I go and do a fix and flip, I'm painting my ceilings and my walls the same color. It's alabaster white, and it's going to be kind of an eggshell, or sometimes flat, depends, but mostly eggshell. All my trim's going to be in alabaster white, but semi-gloss. My doors, I might paint like a different color, like an urbane bronze or something like that, but I have a color scheme that goes along with it. So I can get guys in, I can get guys out. My painters are charging me less because they're just doing one color. They don't have to worry about cutting it back in for the agreeable gray and these other colors. And not to say that that's wrong. There's just things that you can kind of streamline. Most of the time I use the standard doorknobs and handles on my doors, or that I have resources for. Like now I have cabinet companies that I buy wholesale from, and they're usually a better quality than what I would get from the box stores. And they're a little bit more, but I have I got dovetailed drawers, I got soft doors and drawer closures, So for them, they kind of high enough quality I could put into $800,000 houses, no problem. But it's also, I could put in rentals and know that they're going to be lasting me a little bit longer because of the way that they're made. The integrity's better. So, you start putting these pieces of the puzzle together, which someone that's just starting out, they don't have all that.
You don't know, because the more you can streamline, the easier the whole process is. The more of the process you can make repeatable, the better, easier, faster that you can scale everything.
And that's why new construction's, fantastic, because it's like, hey, here's the timeline. There's 257 steps that you have to do to get it from dirt to doorknobs, and everything's got a timeline, and here's the predecessor tasks, and it's, there's a system that goes along with it. And so now I need to know my selections. Well, what do you need? I need 3 toilets. Well, what toilets do you want? And the vanities, and, so you just start putting the piece of the puzzle together. So, and that's why I liked, when I got into doing the architecture, is like, I had the blueprint. I created the blueprint. And in that blueprint, it tells me everything I need to do to this thing. And so I try to give my subs that homework. Like, hey, here's the room. We're removing this wall. We're doing this load bearing beam. We're doing these things. We're doing this. We're doing this. Here's the toilets that I want. There's the selections. Here's the barcodes. Here's this. Here, I just need you to go in and install, put the pieces of the puzzle together.
Do this part. And that's where in your overall arc that you got to see things from a big scale, from way zoomed out before you even got into the nitty gritty stuff. And that is helpful. All right, as we wrap up here, if folks want to reach out and find you, Ernest, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Ernest Smith Official. So across all platforms, it's Instagram and Facebook are probably my 2 bigger ones, but I'm LinkedIn or TikTok even. You may catch me doing a dance every once in a while, but YouTube. I also have Ernest Goes to Network podcast. I started. I'm not like you guys. I don't have hundreds of episodes. I got like 20. But this book that's right here, Joe Foster. You can see the Reebok. Well, he was my first interview.
Nice.
On my podcast.
Yeah,
so
he's a creator of
Reebok, how did you get a billionaire to be your first podcast interviewer? It's like putting yourself in the right rooms to be able to have those opportunities. And when you have those opportunities, you got to be able to ask. And Joe's phenomenal. He's loves to tell a story about how him and his brother, how the grandfather started doing running shoes for track, started telling you the story about how Reebok came in, how they came up with the name, how, all the details about it. And it's pretty amazing. So, but to be able to have that experience, much like what you're doing right now, interviewing, it's fun just to be able to talk with some of those people and just understand their story. And even though it's 10 or 20 minutes, you can learn a lot about people in 10 or 20 minutes. And Joe is great. But yeah, so Ernest Goes to Network podcast or ErnestSmithOfficial.com. they can find me at.
That's awesome. All right. I appreciate your time, your story, and your perspective, Ernest. I think we need more people in this space doing it the way you're doing it, especially on that education side, helping people move along. That's what I love about the real estate world is you get into the right rooms. It's really the abundance mindset that exists. Like when you get in deep enough, you'll find people that to be successful, we all care about that same thing.
Yeah.
For those of you tuning in, if you got value from this, please subscribe, like this episode. We've got more conversations coming up from operators just like Ernest who are out there building real businesses and doing real work for real people. So thank you so much. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.